Hey everybody, Jay Sline here with Skills and Drills Training, and before we jump into this video, I need to make a quick disclaimer. So I realized as I was editing this, the video was going to be entirely too long, so I actually decided to break it up into 3 separate episodes. So that being said, to make sure that everything makes the most sense possible and to make sure that everyone's on the same page, make sure that you're watching this in chronological order. So you want to watch episodes 1 before episode 2, episodes 1 and 2 before episode 3. That way, all the terminology will flow together and all the episodes are going to build on each other to the end. So make sure you're watching them in order, and I hope you enjoy. Now that I've fully covered how to set up for a bunt using the turn method, we need to start talking about how to set up for a bunt using the twist method. And before we get into the rest of that discussion, we need to first start by defining when a player should start his twisting motion in order to properly set up for a quality bunt. And unfortunately, this is a pretty gray area. I actually don't think there's an exact correct answer as far as when every single player should start his twisting motion. Really, it takes each and every player a little bit different amount of time in order to twist and get fully set up and feel confident in laying down a quality bunt. So really, this is at the discretion of the player to learn through going over reps and reps. He'll get comfortable at a specific point when he should start that twisting motion. Now, that being said, I will give you a couple guidelines that if you're just starting out working at home, some guidelines to work in between. So in my opinion, that twisting motion should happen somewhere between the pitcher's first move and before he releases the ball. So it should happen somewhere during his actual pitching motion and his delivery. The reason why we want to wait after that pitcher's first motion, where we would originally start that turn, is traditionally the twist is used in more of a deceptive manner to try to catch that defense off guard, lay that bunt down, and be able to beat out the throw down the first base line. So I don't necessarily want to turn too early and let that defense know that the bunt's about to happen. Now, that being said, I also don't want to wait till after that pitcher releases the ball, because it is still going to take me a decent amount of time to fully rotate my body, get my hands out front, and be set up to lay down a quality bunt. So if I wait till that ball is already in the air, there's a chance that I won't have enough time to get fully turned, and I'll be rushed trying to make the bunt, and that's going to affect my contact and affect the quality of the bunt that actually gets laid down. So I want to be after that first motion, but before that pitcher releases the ball. And somewhere in there, a player will find in his natural rhythm, his natural timing of when he feels comfortable turning and being properly set up and still being able to have confidence in laying down a good bunt. All right, so let's go through and let's break down the twisting setup step by step. Unfortunately, this motion is a whole lot easier than the turn setup that we talked about before. So let's imagine I'm a hitter in the batter's box, facing the pitcher here. I've already got the sign from the third base coach. I know I'm going to bunt, and I'm in a situation where I want to use the twist method. So in this case, all I need to do to get properly set up is I need to start by twisting that back foot, and that's why I call it the twist compared to the turn. In a turn, we're turning our whole body. In a twist, I'm just twisting that back foot or rotating the foot. And I'm rotating that foot 90 degrees, just like I would in a normal swing. So what that looks like from the side, so you can better see it, if I'm in the box and the pitcher's downrange here, all I need to do is turn that foot or twist that foot 90 degrees there. And what that enables me to do is as I twist the foot, it then frees up the hips and the chest to then become square without having to actually do the stepping motion of turning my whole entire body. All I need to do is rotate that back foot. It brings my hips around and my chest around, and I'm in a similar position to what I was in the turn by just twisting my feet. So now, once I have the footwork down of that rotation, I want to make sure my hips are fully square and my chest is fully square back to the pitcher. And that's as simple as getting that bunt out front and assuming something similar to an athletic stance. It's a little bit harder to bend the knees when your feet are in this orientation, but you want a little bit of a knee bend. You want to bend at the waist so you can reduce the zone, and you should look something like this. Just to give you a better view of twisting the foot and the rotation of the hips and the chest, I wanted to make sure I gave you a rep from the side. So this is what it would look like from the side. This is what the whole motion looks like. Player set, he's ready. He looks like he's ready to hit, but he knows he's going to bunt. It starts by twisting that back foot. The hip should come around and the chest comes around. Hands come out front, ready to bunt. So the whole motion, something similar to this. Now that I've explained how to set up using both the turn and the twist, let me go through and highlight some of the pros and cons of each of those different setups so you can better decide which one you want to start practicing at home. So let's go through and weigh in on the pros and cons of the turning setup. Right off the bat, I think one of the biggest advantages of using the turn is that player's committed to that early setup. Because you're going off that pitcher's first motion, you have ample time to make sure your body's fully getting turned around, make sure your chest is getting square back to the pitcher, and it just seems like because you're going early and you're committing to that early bunt, the player just is much more prepared, much more ready, and in a calmer state to really hone in on that ball and put the barrel in the right position. So it just seems like from that turn, because you're setting up early, you're just in a better, more prepared position to lay down quality bunts. Now, also with that, because you're going through the motion of actually doing the footwork and making sure you get turned around, there's a higher chance that by using the turn, your chest is going to be much more square to the pitcher than if you were to use the twist method. And because your chest is square every single time from the turn setup, that hitter seems to have a lot better vision, because now he can use both eyes. He's using bifocal vision to really hone in on that pitch. And that tells him where the location of the pitch is. You know, if it's a ball or strike, sometimes you might need to hold off if you're not in a hit and run. It also helps him time the pitch in order to really, time that pitch and watch it to the barrel. So, he's in a calmer state, he's more prepared, and I think they have better vision, which leads to really consistent bunting from this turn. Now, that being said, there are some cons that come along with it. One of the cons is once that player is set up in this position, his hips really aren't ready to run. So even though they're really consistent at laying bunts down from this position, they almost have to swing their hips back to get in line with first base. So it's not an easy way to gain that first step, and therefore it can take them a little bit more time to get down the first base line. And the other one, it kind of goes either way, but that early setup can, depending on who you are, can kind of be looked at as a con, because you're telling that defense super early, hey, I'm bunting, and it can put them on the ready. Sometimes that third baseman can come crashing in, and that's going to obviously decrease your odds of reaching first base. But in my opinion, I think that early setup I think it outweighs in the good side as compared to being a negative, because I think if you were to really look at the percentages of how many people reach first base on a bunt, I think the percentage of people that reach first base because they caught the defense off guard is extremely small. I think in most cases, if you reach first base, someone on the defense was sleeping, or there was a breakdown in the play or an overthrow, but it's rarely because, you snuck in and you got that bunt in on the defense and they didn't know it was coming. So I think that early setup is better because you have that time to get calm and be prepared. But some people look at it as, hey man, you're showing too early that you're going to bunt, that defense is going to be ready, and they're definitely going to get you out. Now let's weigh in on the pros and cons of using the twist. So right off the bat, I think the biggest advantage of using the twist is the player's first step down the baseline is a lot faster than what it would be if you were to use the turn. And I think the reason for that is because you're just rotating your back foot in order to get the body around and lay the bat out front, players are much more used to starting that first step from this position. Because if you think about it, this is the exact same position, with the feet anyway, that the player finishes every single swing he takes. So because they've been taking full cuts, hitting baseballs, and running down the baseline hundreds and hundreds of times, the muscle memory for that first step from this position is a lot stronger than what it would be from this position, because we don't often practice bunting and running down the baseline from that turned position. So because you have that stronger muscle memory from this style of footwork, that first step seems to be a lot faster, and it increases the player's odds of actually beating out the throw to first base. The next advantage of using the twist is in some cases you will gain a slight deceptive edge. So remember, when we use the turn, we want to go on that pitcher's first motion. But when we use the twist, we're going later in that pitcher's delivery. So as that pitcher progresses through his delivery, to the defense, I still appear as though I'm a hitter and I'm going to take a regular swing away approach. Then right before that pitcher releases the ball, that's when you actually turn and show the bunt sign. So because you're showing the bunt sign to the defense later, there is a chance, even though I think it's small, there is still a chance that you can catch those position players sleeping, and that's definitely going to increase your odds of reaching first base. Now there's also going to be some disadvantages to using the twist. And one of the disadvantages that I wanted to talk about is oftentimes when I see players trying to use the twist in the game, they forget to get fully rotated with their back foot, and so they never get fully square back to the pitcher, and that affects their vision. Whereas from the turn, you're actually going through the motions of rotating your entire body, you're setting up early. Now you're making sure you're fully square back to the pitcher, and you can use both eyes to really track that ball, find its exact location, put your bat in the optimal position to make a quality bunt, and you also get better information on timing that pitch. Where if you're caught up in the moment in the game and the pressure's on, and that player's more focused on just getting the bat out front, and he forgets to get fully rotated in his lower body and get fully square, then he won't have as good a vision as he could have if he were to bunt from that turning position. Another big disadvantage to using the twist is oftentimes in the game, I see players waiting too long to try to turn and set up. And I think that's just because when they use the twist, they start to focus more on trying to fool the defense and hide the fact that they're bunting, rather than focusing on laying down a quality bunt and beating that out to first base. So when the player waits too long to try to turn, all of a sudden now he's in a race against time to fully rotate his body and then get the bat out front, find where the ball is, and make a good connection to lay down a quality bunt. And oftentimes you see these players struggling with contact in general, and when they do make contact, oftentimes they foul it off as opposed to laying down a really good bunt. And the other reason you don't want to wait too long is if you wait till that ball's in the air and your body starts rotating to try to turn and set up, now your eyes are moving as the ball's moving. And anytime your eyes are moving, the brain is not getting as good a data as it would if the eyes were rock solid. So in order to increase your success bunting, you need to make sure you give yourself enough time to turn, get solid, make sure the eyes are steady. That way you can time the pitch and find the exact location as far as where to put the barrel to increase your odds of quality contact and a quality bunt. And it just seems like when those players get in the twist position, they try to walk that razor edge of waiting to the absolute last second. And sometimes they wait just a hair too long and they don't have enough time to get around and get the barrel out front, or they're indefinitely going to be in motion and their eyes will be in motion as the ball is approaching the plate, and that's going to affect their ability to get a good read on the baseball and put the barrel in a correct position for quality contact. So as you can see, each of those different setups really have their own strengths and weaknesses. And that's why I think it's super important for every single player to learn how to bunt using both of those different setups, because there's going to be times in a game when one's going to be preferred over the other and put you in a better position for you to succeed and your team to succeed. So one of those instances would be, let's say that the coach calls a bunt as a hit and run. During a hit and run, really the whole point of that play is to advance the runner. So in that scenario, the hitter's more looked at as a sacrifice. He's just trying to put the ball in play. In this case, he's using a bunt to do that just to make sure that the runner can advance. We're really not concerned with him reaching first base. If he does, that's great, but that's not the point of the play. So in a scenario like that, I would be more apt to use the turn setup. And the reason for that is, one, I'm already a sacrifice as a hitter. So if I let that defense know that I'm bunting too early, I'm not really giving up any trick. Again, we're trying to advance the runner. I'm not trying to reach first base. The other reason why I would use the turn is in a hit and run, I have to put that ball in play. I have no other choice. So whether that's a strike, whether it's a ball outside the zone, or it's coming in super erratically, I have to figure out as a hitter how to get the barrel on the ball. So in that case, I would definitely want to use the turn where I have better vision and I'm in a calmer state and I'm much more prepared to, if the pitch is erratic or coming in wild, I can figure out a way to get the barrel on at the last second, get that ball in play, and then we can still move forward with the hit and run and advance the runner. Now, a situation where I might be more apt to pick the twist over the turn would be, let's say we're in a game and our offense is, for whatever reason, really struggling. Either that pitcher's throwing a great game or the defense is playing really well. Either way, we just can't find a way to get on base. When a coach would call a bunt from that position, I would probably choose the twist over the turn. And that's because, one, my hips are going to be in a better position when I lay the bunt down to gain that first step, and that's going to increase the odds that I can actually outrun that throw. But two, I also am going to gain a little bit of that deceptive advantage because I'm waiting longer. Maybe I catch that third baseman out of position, or I catch one of the parts of the defense sleeping, and somehow I sneak through, and that puts me in a better advantage to get down to first base line. So in a case where we're really trying to get that man on and we're trying to get that offense started, I'm probably going to pick the twist just because might catch the defense off guard, and I'm definitely going to be faster down the line. Well, that's all I have for you today, guys. As always, I hope everybody learned something. If you've been following along with this entire pandemic video series, remember, don't just watch the videos. Actually take some time to work on baseball each and every day, and it's going to make a huge difference by the time the season actually comes back and you can get back on a diamond. If you like this video, give me a like. If you want to help me reach as many players, parents, and coaches as possible, please give this post a share. And remember to stay positive, stay healthy, and stay on the ball. We'll see you next time.